Hi, my name is Chloe Pascasio, and I'm researching Glenwood Mann and his contributions to the farming world during 1942 through 1953. My research question is, how did M.G. Mann make a significant difference through the Farmers Cooperative Exchange Incorporated on farmers' morale in North Carolina during 1942 and 1953? The next slide shows a portrait of M.G. Mann on the right, and my research methods on the left. The first research method I used is historical research method. This is a historical data collection and analysis of a person or organization. So in my case, I would be collecting and analyzing data about M.G. Mann and the Farmers Cooperative Exchange. My second research method that I used is narrative research, which is the study of a single person's experiences. This can be seen through focusing on M.G. Mann. My last research method is evaluation research, which is the study of the effectiveness of an intervention or program. I looked at the Farmers Cooperative Exchange and looked at the effectiveness of this program. I'm also looking at M.G. Mann's effectiveness to boost farmers' morale in the South. Next, I have my first secondary source. This source has allowed me to look at the time surrounding of M.G. Mann and his topics. The first is Agriculture in North Carolina During the Great Depression by Rowan Bishop. This source used historical research method to look at the cotton and tobacco industry during the Great Depression. This source offers contextualization for my area of research. An important quote from this journal article was, "The biggest problems for North Carolina farmers resulted from growing too much cotton and tobacco, the state's two main cash crops." This proves in my research that cotton was destroyed after the Great Depression. And this ties back into M.G. Mann and how he has boosted farmers' morale during the time period 1953 to 1942. The second source is very important to my research. It is the book Lost Revolution, The South in the 1950s by Pete Daniels. This book is an academic work that also uses historical research to prove what life was like during the 50s. This book directly talks about M.G. Mann and his conflicting views about the Secretary of Agriculture, Mr. Benson. This will allow me to prove how M.G. Mann was able to boost farmers' morale. The quote, "M.G. Mann, general manager of the North Carolina Cotton Growers Cooperative Association, resented Benson's insinuations that farmers begged Washington for help. You never hear the Secretary of Labor talking about labor representatives running to Washington for help," he fretted. "I do not recall that I have ever read where the Secretary of Commerce has referred to representatives of industry running to Washington for help. Farmers, just like laborers and business people, relied on federal programs," Mann reasoned. This describes his direct interaction with Mr. Benson and his concern about farmer programs, federal farmer programs. Next is my gap in the research. The gap in my research is proving how M.G. Mann boosted farmers' morale during 1942 to 1953. This can be proven by looking at my primary sources and seeing what the society as a whole was during those times. The gap is the missing piece of research situated by extra research. So in this image of a tunnel, the two secondary sources and all my other secondary sources would be the big research, the two parts. But in order to answer my research question, I need to fill the gap, which is the most important part. And since M.G. Mann is rarely talked about during books, my gap is a gap that you can drive a train through. Lastly, my primary sources are newspaper articles. One during the 1942 on the right, and the left is 1953. The one on the left is commenting on what was mentioned in the book by Pete Daniels. This is a primary source that proves he was able to draw a large crowd in his beliefs. The newspaper article on the right is M.G. Mann speaking about how farmers should not strike on the home front during the war, because they are the ones who run the war. He believes without farmers, the United States could not fight in the war because the soldiers would not have enough clothes or food to even fight. That concludes my presentation, and thank you for your time.